Daihatsu Sirion is a little car that many UK buyers might quite enjoy if only they knew about it. For the few that take the plunge, it's an affordable city car with a supermini outlook and its own rather endearing character.
If I asked you the name of the first Japanese maker to import its cars into Britain, I bet you'd get it wrong. Now the answer, if you're interested, is Daihatsu, who first appeared here back in 1964. Today, the brand is owned mainly by Toyota and still specialises in the kind of tiny cars it sold here in the 60s. Cars like this one, the Daihatsu Sirion. The name apparently comes from a river in The Lord of the Rings and is a lot catchier than the badge work this design must wear in Japan, where it's sold as both the Daihatsu Boon and the Toyota Passo. Now this second generation Sirion started life back in 2004, pitched into the supermini market. But the importers quickly realised that wasn't going to wash, and today it's sold against smaller city cars like Vauxhall's Agila, Fiat's Panda and Toyota's own Aygo. Not in very great numbers, it has to be said, for this is a car that escapes the attention of most buyers in this sector. But perhaps it shouldn't. If you can operate a payphone, then you should have no trouble figuring out how to drive this car. No, scrub it, I've been into payphones that are a whole lot trickier to figure out than a Sirion. All the controls are legibly marked, the steering's light, and the ride is surprisingly supple for such a small runabout. The manual gearbox probably isn't as direct as it could be, and these chunky windscreen pillars do impair visibility slightly when you're negotiating tight T-junctions or tight roundabouts. But otherwise, this is a very easy car to drive, although the lack of ultimate grip from the skinny tyres and the very slight amount of extra body lean during corners from the tall shape mean that it isn't one you'd really want to chuck about. Still, more importantly on the plus side, the power steering is very light and easy for town work, and the huge glass area means that visibility all round is great. Now, performance from the entry-level 68 brake horsepower 1 litre engine is best described as unhurried. It eventually gets this Sirion to 60 from rest in 13.9 seconds on the way to a top speed of just 99 miles an hour. So you'll need to work the gearbox hard to make respectable progress. In terms of the unique 3 litre thrum from the engine bay, you'll either see that as noisy or deep and characterful. If the former, then maybe the 4-cylinder 1.3 and 1.5 litre engines will be more to your liking. They're certainly better suited to open road driving. The 1.3 that I'm driving here makes 60 from rest in 11.4 seconds on the way to a top speed of 106 miles an hour. Now, if you go for these two 4-cylinder options, there's also the alternative of a 4-speed automatic gearbox, but it's not a very slick unit, and unless most of your driving is stop-start urban orientated, then I'd stick to the manual. The Sirion's shape is tall and chunky and still looks fresh. It's even quite trendy with its smiley face at the front, the pronounced wheel arches and the squared off tail. Now, the front of the car has been designed to do well in pedestrian crash tests, and laudably, front and side airbags are standard, along with anti-lock brakes and electronic brake force distribution. Fit and finish is pretty good, even if the quality of plastics isn't that appealing. Now, headroom is certainly not an issue in a Sirion, even for 6-footers, whether you're sitting in the back or in the front here, where the speedo pod actually adjusts with the wheel as you get yourself a comfortable position. Now, like most small cars, there's no shortage of space for oddments with cup holders, trays, stowage spaces, cubbies. They're all dotted around the interior. You also get a split level glove box here, although neither level yields very much in terms of usable space. The seats are surprisingly firm, with plenty of support even for broad-shouldered drivers. In the rear, there's a trio of 3-point seat belts, with the outer two having Isofix child seat fixings. Now, back here, it's not only possible to wear a top hat, but also to park your knees without feeling all scrunched up. There's even an adjustability for the back seat, so you can recline it slightly for the kids to more easily go to sleep on longer trips. Rear luggage space runs to 225 litres with the rear seats in place, and you can extend that to 630 litres by folding the split folding bench right down. That's not quite supermini size, but quite enough to rival other city cars. Now, list prices suggest that you'll pay between £8,000 and £11,000 for your Sirion, which is the pricing landscape that, believe it or not, most modern day city cars tend to occupy, although a few even cost more, or you only get them with 3 doors. There are some city cars that have more tempting entry-level prices, and it's a pity that Daihatsu doesn't do a stripped-out 1-litre Sirion to compete with models like Hyundai's i10 or Suzuki's Alto, although these are very slightly smaller. Still, given that most modern superminis, Corsa or Fiesta-sized cars, retail in the £10,000 to £15,000 bracket, yes really, and that this Daihatsu does most of what a modern supermini will deliver, there's plenty to like about it from a value perspective. Although it is worth pointing out that this same design is sold in the UK badged as a Peregrine Mivi for around £800 less model for model, although it only comes in 1.3 litre form. There's no diesel, so it's a petrol only choice with an entry level 68 brake horsepower 1 litre unit, or the 90 brake horsepower 1.3 litre 4-cylinder engine that's shared with older Toyota Yaris Superminis. That's the engine that I've got here. You can also have a 102 brake horsepower 1.5 litre 4-cylinder engine. Equipment wise, you get this nicely integrated stereo CD system, although it can't cope with MP3 recordings. Sadly too, the kind of ESP stability control system that would get you out of trouble on slippery surfaces or if you enter a corner too fast, that's not even an option on most models. But all of them do get air conditioning, remote control central locking, electric power steering and electric windows all round. Now, no Sirion will cost you an arm and a leg to run, although the fuel and the CO2 figures, though once class leading, do now betray the age of the design. The entry-level 1 litre model manages 56.5 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle, while CO2 emissions are pegged at 118 grams per kilometre. Its 1.3 litre stablemate, that's the car I'm driving here, less laudably manages 48.7 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle, with CO2 figures of 137 grams per kilometre. Insurance groups, they're pitched between groups 5 and 6, whilst pence per mile running costs, well, they're broadly similar to something like a Ford Fiesta 1.25. One nice touch for those planning to enter long cycles of ownership is that this 1.3 litre version has a catalytic converter able to regenerate itself, reducing the need for an expensive replacement when the miles build up. Perhaps that's one reason why, after 3 years of motoring, this Sirion will still be worth 40% of what you paid for it. Another, perhaps, is the excellent 5-year unlimited mileage warranty, which comes with 5 years of roadside assistance. The Sirion has proved to be an acquired taste amongst UK buyers, but those who've owned one tend to want to buy another, which must say something. Now, the fact that it can't quite decide whether it wants to be a city car or a supermini hasn't helped it slot into the UK market, which is a pity, for a compact runabout that straddles these two sectors is probably what a lot of buyers actually need. If you think you might be one of the relatively few who'll appreciate its individuality, its fresh design and its winning engines, then it's well worth trying one. Get the right price and you'll find this an interesting and beguiling alternative to more commonplace small cars.